Queen says The Silence of the Lambs is false advertisement. It's not a single lamb in the movie. It's a really good movie though. I'm a big fan of Anthony Hopkins, man. That guy is like one of the greatest actors of our time. Did you enjoy the movie though? Oh, be careful of spoilers though, because I don't know if people in chat like want to watch the movie and stuff. Like, how many people in chat know what Silence of the Lambs is? I also enjoyed Red Dragon, which is the sequel to Silence of the Lambs. But a lot of people didn't really enjoy Red Dragon though. I think Red Dragon was really good. Like the introduction of the antagonist, like the new antagonist, that character build up is so awesome, man. Heard of it, but you never watch it, Jema? Okay, it's a pretty like fucked up movie, right? So you have to like be prepared to be scared and thrilled. Silence of the Lambs is not a horror movie in like there's no ghosts or demons. It's a psychological thriller. So if you enjoy psychology movies, like go for it. Spider-Verse is on Netflix, Felix. Yeah, I saw it. I added it to my list. Queen says War of Worlds is better in your opinion. It's such a fucking good movie. War of Worlds is okay. Are you talking about the Tom Cruise War of Worlds? I mean, like, it's okay. I mean, War of Worlds is alright. Like, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I'm more of a... If you're talking about Tom Cruise, I'm a way bigger fan of his Mission Impossible movies. Hannibal Lecter is very badass. But you have to watch The Silence of the Lambs Hannibal Lecter. Like, I understand there's another, like, a TV show called Hannibal. It's good, but it's not like Silence of the Lambs good. Queen says Silence of the Lambs about human being the monster, not actual monster. Exactly. Exactly. It's not as fucked up as Human Centipede. But Queen, I think you're basically watching movies for the shock value. You're watching movies for like you know, for the big, you know, like, I don't know. I like movies that are really quiet, that doesn't have a lot of like bow wow kapow big bam boom. I don't like I like those movies when I watch Marvel, but I like movies that are really good and the impact of the movie comes down to the acting. Like for me, something like Goodfellas is so freaking good, man, because like of how amazing the acting is. Like you don't feel like you're watching a movie, you feel like you're watching the lives of people who actually lived. But what I like about psychological thriller is like you're the whole time you're trying to understand where the characters are mentally, you know? Like what made Game of Thrones so fucking amazing was the psychological thrillers about the whole series. It was never about like the dragons blowing up shit, you know. That was like kind of like a reward, you know, for you guys like sticking around with the seasons that long. But like Game of Thrones was so good the first 5 seasons because the entire time you're like trying to understand what's going on in the characters' heads. You know, you wanted to know what they stood for, what they're fighting for, you know, what they're willing to do. You're always like, characters are only interesting when you're able to like fully understand what people are capable of, I think. The Shining was pretty awesome, Queen. I like The Shining. Cautious watched The Orphanage. It's in Spanish but subtitled. It's so good. I think I watched The Orphanage, I think. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but The Orphanage is about a girl who was like... Okay, it could be wrong because I watched a movie where it's like... Okay, it's really hard to... I don't want to spoil this, but but I'm just going to give you the premise. It's a story of a girl who was adopted, but as soon as the adopted parents adopted the girl, shit starts to happen. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of The Orphan. Yeah, that's The Orphan, right? The Orphanage is like something totally different. Yo, Kosh, I agree, man. Films that make you think. That's what makes films so fucking special. I think a lot of movies don't have that shit anymore. Like, if you look at the movies nowadays, it's all sequel after sequel after sequel. You know, I totally understand that they're trying to cash in on like big name franchises like Man in Black, Terminator. Like, I understand, but if they want to make movies more special, they should go back to psychological thrillers. If you guys were watching The Terminator for the first time, you didn't know who was an ally and who was an enemy. Like, you didn't know if Kyle Reese was like going to hurt Sarah Connor or it was like the T-800. You have no idea. In Terminator 2, when they flipped the entire premise, they flipped the characters, it was like so mind-blowing, man. Because you came into the movie expecting someone to be evil and someone to be good. And they switched that shit, man. And you're like, oh! And like all the action they put on top is like icing on the cake. Right? Nowadays with movies, it's like the main cake itself is just like the explosions. And you know, like the good stuff, like the dialogue and the acting is just the icing, which is like fucking wrong, man. Man, whenever I talk about films and stuff, I really go off a tangent. I can go on and on for hours about movies. I have such a deep love for movies in general. I think like one of my favorite like directors of all time is like Quentin Tarantino. I mean, of course you can see like, you know, the gist of his movies is like shock factor. You know, because it's all about blood and stuff, but I think it's always accompanied by really amazing acting. Like, if you look like at a movie like Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs, it's like all about acting, man. Like, the action doesn't come even close. Like, when they show you some action, sometimes you just want to get back to the acting. Django is the GOAT. Django is cool, but I wouldn't say Django is the GOAT. I would say it really depends on what you're going for, Kosh. I think his greatest crowning achievement is Inglourious Basterds. Even though like Inglourious Basterds is not one of my most favorite Tarantino movies, I would say one of my favorite Tarantino movies is definitely... Oh my god, it's so hard to pick, man. I love Reservoir Dogs. I love Pulp Fiction. I love the Kill Bill series, man. Fucking Kill Bill 1 and 2 was so good.